what I'm going to do now is make sure, I would like to first acknowledge the country on which we're meeting today, and I can see that Tracy's on the land of the Mamu people. We're on the lands of the Turrbal and Yagara people coming from Mianjin country. And I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and also pay my respects to any First Nations people here joining us today. And like Tracy, if you know the lands on which you're joining us from across Queensland, pop it in the chat. It's always good to learn new places, and so that I can get to know I mean, I'm a Queenslander through and through, but it's always nice to know the lands on which people are joining us from. We also have another slide that we are introducing. Actually, today is the first time, and it's a really important slide for us. So any event that we do, we want to ensure that ensure our members that QNMU is committed to ensuring all of its gatherings, including meetings, functions and events, are free from all forms of harassment, discrimination and racism. And attendees have the right to be safe and respected, and ask that all attendees act in accordance with these values. So if you have any concerns, please raise them with the convener, which is me, of this online event today. So yes, we just like to ensure that what is said in this meeting stays in this meeting. Everybody has their own opinions, and if we can be respectful, that's a great place to start. So as I said, we're doing the Creating a Successful Branch motion. And hi, Kelly, good to see you again. I'm getting to see some familiar faces now, the more courses that I'm doing. But I would really love, first of all, I'm not too sure how many we've got on, but if we can quickly just go around the room, like if we would normally be in an education room, it's great to get to know everybody. So if you could just introduce yourself, where you work, and whether you're a delegate, a rep or a member, because that will help me be able to tailor this course a little bit better. If I know I've got all delegates in the room, I'm going to use that type of speak, right? So Kim, you were the first one. Would you like to be the first to start? Introduce yourself. Off mute. You're on mute, darling. Yeah.
Don't know how that happened. Can you hear me?
There you go. Yeah, I can hear you now.
Okay. I'm a EN. I work at Cooperoo Community Care Units, Mental Health. Genevieve is our delegate. I'm an alternative delegate.
Oh, excellent. Thank you.
Yeah. And Jen's over in America at the moment, so she's thrown me in. No, actually, I did want to learn this. It just happened all real quick. So, yeah. I work with chronic mental health and in the community. So, yeah.
Okay, great. Thanks.
I've been there for 10 years. Wow,
excellent. Thank you. And I've got to use that terminology when I was explaining, and I forgot about the alternate delegate. It's in my notes, but thank you. Thanks for pointing out. I will talk about the difference. Trudy, how about you?
Hi, I'm a clinical nurse at Nambour General on the Sunshine Coast, and I'm a delegate, have been for a few years now, and I'm actually coming to work with you guys as an organiser for 4 months in a week. I can't wait.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
That's great. Welcome. When do you start?
27th.
Oh, fantastic. Oh, well, I'll get to meet you. And you're probably going to be, well, we've got lots of training and education courses coming up, so you're going to be thrown in the deep end, Trudy. Welcome. But thank you. You're a delegate up there. Kelly, share your story, Dale.
So I'm a nurse with the Metro South Clinical Tuberculosis Service. So I'm based at the PA, but I cover from Bundaberg down to the Queensland border and out to Eidsfeld. And I'm a delegate for our unit with the PA hospital.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Kelly. Melita, hello. I think I've met you too as well in my travels since I've been here. Would you like to, can you get yourself off mute and let us know, are you a delegate, alternate delegate, rep, contact? It's always tricky, isn't it? I don't know where it is. Sometimes it's a bit different on people's computers. How can you get yourself unmute?
If I can offer any assistance, if you're on your phone, Melita, just press your screen and it'll have a little like speaker or something on it.
No, how about you work it out, Melita? I'll go over to Tracy and I'll come back to you. So you get yourself sorted. I understand it gets a little bit complicated. Hi, Tracy, how are you?
Hello, how are you?
I'm well, darling.
So I'm in the lands of the Mamu people and it's pouring rain in Innisfail.
Well, that's a surprise, isn't it?
Yeah, what a surprise.
Well, I think you know it's wet season, isn't it?
I think I do now if I did it yesterday.
Well, there you go. And what role do you have, Tracy?
I am a registered nurse and I'm a delegate at Innisfail Hospital. And I just finished a stint 4 months as an organiser, but I'm back to my grassroots activism at my hospital and surrounding hospitals I get calls about. Yeah.
Excellent, excellent. Well, you've probably got some words of wisdom you might like to share with Trudy offline at another time about the joys of being a member organiser. So thank you. And Shirley, hello again. Shirley and Kelly.
Hi, Leg. I'm definitely at home. I'm not at the brunch.
Excellent. Shirley was going to make the drive in to do this. Yeah, I saw her yesterday and said, no, stay at home, darling. Stay in your PJs.
I just attended a brunch meeting as well at GCH. So I'm Shirley. Hello, everybody. I'm one of the clinical nurses at the Gold Coast University Hospital, and I am one of the delegates. And I am using all my industrial leave because I know they are there for us to use, and I'm learning a lot of things. I've done 2 sessions with Leg at brunch, and I've done the rostering guidelines session yesterday, and I'm excited to look into the motion or how to create a good one.
Motion. Yeah.
So I'm excited to network with all my mentors.
Okay, thank you, Shirley.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Sue-Ann, hi. I know you, but would you like to introduce you to everybody else?
No, that's okay. And excuse my camera being off because the computer decided to update when I jumped on, so I'm on my phone, so it's easy with camera off. I'm a registered nurse, but I'm substantially up in Member Connect. So if you've ever called through Member Connect, I'm usually one of the people answering the phone. But I might get to meet you, Trudy, because I'm actually down in the organising space in the aged care sector for 6 months. So I'm down there on a secondment for now. So a bit of a move around.
Yeah. And everybody's lapping up all of this new educate. We've had a few new courses at the moment. So it's great that Sue-Ann can join us, and she might have a few words of wisdom as well in relation to the topic tonight. Danielle.
Hello. Sorry, I'm having some computer difficulties myself, so I'm on my phone as well. My name's Danielle. I am at Redlands Hospital in perioperative. I'm a clinical nurse in the pre-anaesthetic clinic there. I am a delegate for the Redlands branch.
Oh, great. Excellent. Great. Thanks, Danielle.
Thanks.
And Lauren. Hi, Dal. I know you, but nobody else knows you. So do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi. I'm Lauren. I am not going to turn my camera on because I just woke up from night shift, so that's horrific. I am a clinical nurse at the Royal Brisbane and Women's Hospital and a delegate there. Just in we're like a new improved MAPU. We're called EPIC, an Early Patient Intervention Centre.
Oh, okay. Gosh, you know what I've discovered? I'll tell it a little bit later. Thanks, Lauren. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no worries.
And Melita. Oh, there you go. Look.
I think I'm back again now. All right. I'm Melita Lowry. I've been a delegate here at Caboolture as one of our founding delegates when we started the branch years ago in the Campbell Newman years. I'm transitioning to my retirement, so I've stepped down into an alternate delegate position just to try and open up space for some fresh young blood to come through as part of my succession planning.
Wonderful, thank you. And love that terminology, succession planning. We're going to be doing a fair bit of planning over the next couple of months, especially if you come to the mods. So thank you, Melita. Yes, I met you at the mods last year at Sunshine Coast, didn't I? What I was going to say, I'll introduce myself. I'll put my hand up and say I'm not a nurse. I've worked at the QNMU for 2 years now, and I'm loving this role as the educator. But what I was saying when Lauren spoke is that I come from the finance industry, and we thought we had our own language in the finance industry. Well, I tell you what, I reckon the health industry does acronyms really, really well. So Lauren works in an EPIC centre. How's that? Probably, and isn't it the Royal? There's STARs as well, and MAPU. Like, there's just so many. I'm getting my head around them, but I'll eventually get to know them all. So I'm really pleased that all of you are taking the time to do this session. What you might find is if you do get an opportunity to attend the mods, which are coming up at the end of February and into March, you'll see a version of this in person as well, because I think it's really important to be able to know the process of how to write a motion, but also why do we do it? Like, what's the reason why a motion is needed? So we might get started on the presentation. Hopefully this works. We're using a new format. Oh, and I'm great. The host has spotlighted me now, so I hope I've got my good Elle McPherson face on. Let's get started. First of all, does anybody know the structure of the QNMU? And I don't have a picture for this, so I want you to be able to picture it in your mind, draw it on a piece of paper that you've got in front of you, or even put it into the chat. Do you know, like, I sort of talk about a triangle of the reason why we're a member organisation, and the member involvement works its way up and works its way down. Let's start, if you can draw a triangle for me on a piece of paper, and I'll be able to step you through it. But at the bottom of your triangle, I want you to put a line and write 70,000 members in that. The next line we have in that triangle is that of workplace reps. And we like to be able to try, and eventually, because we're an organising union, is to try and be able to get to the point where we have a rep in every work unit and every shift, so that the QNMU information is readily available for all of our members on the floor. The next line in your triangle is going to be delegates and alternate delegates. So we have a branch structure. There's currently 155 branches. I think we have over 360 delegates and alternate delegates off memory. This is approximate, please. That the branches represent all different work units across Queensland. Sometimes you'll have a branch that's formed in relation to a specialty, for example, midwifery or nurse practitioner. And then, as you've heard when people were introducing themselves, we have delegates that are a part of a branch of a HHS and a particular hospital. Above that, we have our counsellors in that triangle. So we have 23 counsellors, and we have a president and a vice president. Does everybody know who our president and vice president is of the QNMU? Okay. Oh, Beth Moll is the secretary.
Oh, secretary.
Yeah. So Sally Ann is our president and Lucinda is our vice president. And they're members of QNMU. They have a full-time job working for Queensland Health, and they have been elected into their roles as your representatives at council, representing in all forms of committees and forums, and they're our, if you've been to conference before, you would have seen Sally Ann and Lucinda sit up the front, and Sally Ann usually controls the room. She's the one that opens up the meeting. She'll have a presentation to do, and then she also goes through the process of the motions. So give me a thumbs up if you're actually understanding what I'm talking about. Yeah? Have many people been to conference before? Yeah, I can see Melita's hand.
I went to one last year, end of last year. It wasn't the conference, but it was one of the last meetings for the year. Because I've only just become an alternative delegate. So.
Yes. So only delegates get to go to conference, but an alternate delegate gets to take the space of a delegate if for some reason that person can't go. Yeah, so you might get an opportunity this year. We're having an online conference this year. So every second year we have one in person, and the alternate year is done online, because we are also conscious that the money spent in putting on a conference is that of members' money, and sometimes it's very difficult for people to leave their workplaces or travel around. So having an online version also opens it up to a lot more people. And what I wanted to be able to say is that as a result of being a branch delegate, the information that you provide at a branch level is supported by your members underneath you, and there's 70,000 members in QNMU. They provide information to you at a branch level, and then as a branch, you provide that information up to the president and to the councillors, so that we're making sure, and vice versa, the information comes back down through that triangle the same way too, so that we're making sure that the direction and of the QNMU and where we put all our resources is ensuring that it's actually in the areas that members are wanting us to spend time in, which is where we get to the part of conference and writing a motion. So let me
Leanne, sorry,
Yes.
Shirley has her hand raised.
Oh, thank you, Ebony. I couldn't see that. Hey, Shirley.
Oh, I just raised because there was a question earlier on who has attended the conference. So I raised my hand to say, yes, I did go.
Oh.
And it was a nice experience last year, and looking forward to more of that.
Excellent. Thanks, Shirley. Yeah, it really is a great opportunity to network and meet a lot of your colleagues and people that are of like-minded activists as well. You do what you do. You step up into the delegate role for a reason, and it means that you're taking an active interest in the issues in your workplace, but not just for your workplace, but taking an active interest in the issues of nurses and midwives across Queensland and also across Australia, for the whole of the industry. And I think as a representative body, we're pretty strong here in Queensland. And as being a member of QNMU, as you probably already know, you're also a member of the Australian Nursing and Midwifery Federation, which is about 330,000 strong. So, you know, that's a fairly strong voice when we're wanting to represent at all forms of committees, governments, political bodies, to be able to put forward the issues of nurses and midwives. It's a pretty strong voice to be heard. People open their doors when we come knocking, and it's important that they continue to do so. So what do you think, what do people think a motion is? Can we go around the room, or just throw your definition of what is a motion? Can we write a motion about anything? No?
It has to be, it can't be about a local branch issue. So it has to be something that encompasses all nurses.
Yeah, something that's industry-wide. Thank you, Kelly. Exactly. Sue-Ann?
I like the language that's used of deeply, widely felt. So that sort of incorporates what Kelly was saying across the industry. So if everyone's deeply, widely felt of the concern as a collective, then that could be considered to be put forward for a motion.
Exactly right. Yeah. So local issues, because as a branch, obviously there are things that are special or something that happens in your own workplace. As a branch, you can identify what those issues are, and there's a grievance or a dispute process to go through for locally raised issues, okay? Because really, quite frankly, or sadly, you know, because you've been told to wear purple scrubs at Logan, people in Innisfail really, it's not an issue for them. So you can, if you don't like wearing purple scrubs, then as a local issue, there's some mechanisms and committees and forums that you can raise that to speak to management to be able to get them to change it to the groovy colour orange, which is my favourite, right? But when we're wanting to represent the widely, deeply felt issues of nurses and midwives across Queensland or across Australia, writing a motion is really important because that can get addressed at conference. And then that particular issue then gets actioned, and your motions, motions that have been voted on and approved, help guide QNMU and where we spend our resources, where we put our time, and ensuring that we're representing our members, because you've told us that this is an issue that's important for you. So the purpose of tonight is to be able to make sure that we've got the right type of motion, we're writing the right one, because sometimes it gets a little difficult. And we are wanting to make sure that when a branch spends time in identifying an issue that you want to take to conference, that you write a motion to make sure that it's accepted and hopefully that it gets voted up at conference. And so we've put in some mechanisms to help you go through that process. So I'll just click on our next slide. And Kelly, thank you. You're wearing orange, I hope, or purple? Oh, purple's Sue Ann's favourite colour. Good on you. Let me just... So the proper definition for a motion is that it's a proposal that is put before a meeting or the annual conference for discussion and a decision. If a motion is passed, it becomes a resolution. Resolutions are binding and should be recorded in the minutes. Okay, so when we're actually writing a motion at a branch level, you should be doing that discussion and debate at a formal branch meeting where minutes are being taken. This is prior to it going to conference, and the debate and the actual finalisation of the wording of the motion should also be minuted in your local branch minutes. I don't know if any of you take those minutes. There should be a quorum as well to ensure that it's a legally binding discussion, so that it's not just one person going, this is what we want and I'm going to write it and I'm going to put it in my minutes. There's templates on the website that I'll show you a little bit later in relation to minutes as well. The next slide says, so some general tips for framing a motion. It really is important that if you frame a motion, when presenting an item for inclusion on the conference agenda, local branches need to provide a background information to clarify that the existing problem or situation and any attempts that have been made to rectify or improve the situation, just so that you've got a bit of a background to why your particular branch is wanting to put this motion to conference. A good motion is clearly expressed, it's simple and it's to the point, and it should clearly set out who wants the action. Actually, I'm going to go backwards. I'm going to read you an example of a motion that the Queensland Nurses and Midwives Union negotiates with Queensland Health and other employers where possible to ensure that all facilities employing shift working nurses and midwives provide dedicated safe sleeping places for staff use in line with established evidence-based fatigue management guidelines, and report to Council providing an update on negotiations within 6 months of this motion being accepted. How do you think that sounds? It's sort of clear, it's very formal. I'll go through our first slide, and it says who wants the action. So it's the local branch wants the particular action to be raised at conference. Why the action is required. So for that particular example that I read out, it's because for obvious reasons there's shift working nurses that don't have a safe place to sleep. Who will take the action? You're directing QNMU to negotiate with QNMU, with Queensland Health, sorry. What action is required? Well, we've got to ensure that we've got to negotiate with Queensland Health to ensure that they provide the facilities, and we've got to provide a report. and the action is required is that the report is provided within 6 months of this motion being accepted. So I can provide you with a copy of these slides if you would like. Nod your head for a few of you that I can see with your camera on. Melita's saying yes, Kelly. Okay, we'll provide these slides to you. Motions raised for consideration to conference are allocated in following categories. So when you are debating and thinking about raising a motion at a branch level, there's 6 different categories that can be, the motion can be slotted into. So you need to identify which particular ones they are. And I'll just go through a few of those. So we've got an industrial section. So that's those motions that address issues, and this is where you don't get to see me for a bit, but that's all right. These motions address issues relating to wages and working conditions. So a lot of motions that go to conference fall into this category. And for those of you that are from Queensland Health, they take up a lot of, they go into the next round of EB negotiations on 99% of the time. But if you're not from Queensland Health, and you're wanting to address issues relating to wages and working conditions, the category would be industrial. So, for example, rostering, on-call, higher duties, allowances, wages and increases. We also have a professional category. So these address issues which have an impact on the capacity of nurses and midwives and your profession and the ability to care for your patients, clients and residents. So, for example, this one would be, working to your full scope of practice, or the training and professional development opportunities available to you, cultural safety, clinical support, occupational violence strategies, skills recognition, etc. There's also the category of social. So these motions address general social matters associated with health and wellbeing of nurses and midwives. As workers or as citizens in their care in the broader community. So this is the gender pay gap, the gender equality, the sustainability in the workplace, reconciliation, renewable resources, etc. Because we've got a responsibility as a community of health professionals to ensure that the broader community is also looked after. The other 3 are political. A high percentage of our membership is employed by Queensland Health, and Queensland Health is, your boss is the Queensland government. So we've actually got to be a little bit political in ensuring that we can knock on the doors and raise the concerns of nurses and midwives at that level. So these motions are related to any government policies or decisions that they make that can affect nursing and midwifery practice around the health and education. So they're often framed as requests for QNMU to lobby or call for action. So examples of a political motion would be policy development and implementation, public health service delivery, universal health care, government funding models, etc. And I know this sounds really tricky, but sometime I'm going to show you a tool that we have on our website that's going to make this life a little bit easier for you. But I think if you take these slides to your next branch meeting and discuss when you are wanting to identify some motions that you may want to raise at conference, then having these slides might help you. Work health and safety, I think that speaks for it themselves, that these motions address general social matters associated with workplace health and safety, particularly occupational violence policies, security staff contracting, health and safety representative selection. And the last one is democratic. So these motions are related to nursing and midwifery involvement in decision-making processes and forums, especially within the QNMU, and matters around representation, equity and governance within the QNMU. So perhaps, if you want to change the representation on council, or change the rules around conference observers, or rewrite the member code of conduct if you think it needs to be updated. Another option there is a proposal for a First Nations legal officer. Those are the things that come under the democratic category. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yep.
Yep. All right. What we might do now is I might get Ebony to, let me just have a look at the next screen. Okay, this is just a colour-coded example of that motion that I read out before, just so that now that we've gone through the categories and the 5 steps of how to sort of slightly draft it, you can see the example that we've put here. We've tried to colour code the words with the section. So who wants the action? And the local branch of the QNMU. Why is the action required? Nurses and midwives performing shift work do not have safe sleeping places. Who will take the action? QNMU head office will do that. What is the action required? That negotiates with Queensland Health and other employers. So that opens it up to ensure that, for this particular motion, that it's not just Queensland Health that we're going to be negotiating with. And when is the action required? Now, with the progress report to be made. So that's nice little colour coding of the sections that we have to take into consideration. All right, I'm going to go back one. Has anybody got any questions on that before I'm going to show you the website in a moment and show you the tool that's been made to make your life a little bit easier. Has anybody, can I ask a question? Those of you that are in a branch and have been in a branch for a long time, have any of your branches raised a motion and had it debated at conference? Yes, no, yes, Melita's saying yes, Trudy's nodding her head, I think. Tracy, are you nodding your head?
Leg, can you just repeat the question? It's a bit heavy with rain. I didn't hear it.
Is the rain that heavy? Oh my goodness.
Terrible.
I was just asking if anybody's ever been in a branch meeting where as a branch you've written a motion and it's been submitted to conference and it's been voted on the floor. Yes, Tracy's giving the thumbs up. It's a bit of a daunting process too. We might even get a chance tonight to go into the process of what you do, whether you agree or disagree to other motions that are put on the floor. It's if you can write a short and succinct motion with a great background story, I think you cover off your bases to ensure that what you're wanting to achieve is understood by others at conference. What's the time? 5:10. Oh, thank you, Ebony. So my Ebony, I was going to say my Adriana Exanides, but not everybody knows Adriana Exanides these days. But I like to refer to Ebony as that because she's my helping hand and she does a fantastic job in the background. So Ebony has got our website up at the moment, which is what you will see when you go into our website. And the information about branches is in that section there where she's got her mouse. See where it says about, and you click on our branches. So when you click on our branches, you will get this page. And this is a cover off page that provides all the information you need to know. This is a section here that's got some templates for you, branch meeting templates. It's got a request for funds if you're wanting to do something special as a branch. There's some templates there for the roles and responsibility for delegates, and also some posters about, encouraging people to be a member of the QNMU. So please use those links. But the really, really exciting part is there where she's highlighting, click here for motions and resolutions. So when you click that blue box, and what I suggest you do is at a branch meeting, if somebody has access to a computer, take your computer to your meeting and be able to have this up on the screen. The first page you will see is some information about notices of motion. So what you'll see, and right up front, we're very, very clear that the opening date for motions is the 16th of January. So they're open now. Branches can submit your motions now. They actually close on the 19th of April, where Ebony's highlighting, but there's been a little bit of a change now. You can, as a branch, submit your motion at any time of the year. Okay, don't wait until we open it and then you wait till the 11th hour and you submit it. You can submit your motions whenever you as a branch have decided that this is important. But what you've got to remember is on the 9th, they close on the 19th of April. If you submit your motion on the 20th of April, it just means that motion will be held over for the following year's conference in 2024. So if you want your motion as a branch to be raised at 2023 conference this year in July, then you need to have that motion submitted using this tool by the 19th of April. And we've already spoken about in brief, you know, that you want to know who wants the action, what action is required. There's those same dot points that I spoke about before, just there in the top section. And then when drafting, there's the categories there: professional, democratic, political, industrial, safety, and social. So if you click next, so we'll go across the top. The other thing to take into consideration, there's some rules about writing motions, and you cannot submit a motion to the conference floor if it's already been raised in the last 5 years. So currently, this tab that Ebony's on at the moment is the current motion. So those that are sitting there, this Sunshine Coast University Hospital branch, they're opened the gate and they have submitted a motion already. And can I say, I think it's a really well-written motion. We might refer back to it a little bit later when we look at the tool, but there's only one that's been submitted. So please, when you're at your branch meeting, have a discussion and submit any motions, but do your research. You have to have a look at this tab that Ebony's going to click on here, this past resolutions tab. Whatever you're wanting to do, we might just put in, say, staffing, Ebony, in this text. Up will come every motion that has something relating to staffing already submitted. So if we want to look at, well, that's a really big one, isn't it? That motion, goodness. Can we go up to one? That, yeah. I really just want you to have a look and do research, because you can't submit a motion that has already been raised on the conference floor for the past 5 years. It will only give you a 5-year search when you do put in a topic like that. So if you're thinking of, well, we could even do that sort of safe stuff, you know, sleeping. What was that motion that I did before? Safe sleeping places for shift workers. Yeah, maybe sleeping. There you go. So there's one that got raised in 2022, that QNMU negotiates with Queensland Health and other employers where possible to ensure that all facilities employing shift working nurses and midwives provide dedicated safe sleeping places for use in line with established evidence-based fatigue management. That must have been where we got our example from. And so that's directing our industrial team that we negotiate with Queensland Health. But other than that, it doesn't look like there's been any other motions raised in relation to sleeping issues in the past 5 years. So first step off the rank when you got some idea is do your research of past resolutions, motions that have been on the floor, conference floor. There's another tab there which is not carried or withdrawn, so you can have a look and see if somebody's tried to do what you're wanting to do in the past. Ebony, yep, you can put sleeping, see if they've been raised before. No. Ratios. There you go, thanks. So we've just put in nurse so that we can get some in there. But certain motions don't necessarily get carried. Some get withdrawn at the once they've written it, then they realise it's either been raised before, it's been withdrawn for one reason or another. It might be against our values. So you can have a look at past. It's a good research to be able to go, are we on the right track, or if it's been tried before, we might have to word our motion a little bit differently. We'll quickly have a look at the Queensland Policy Committee, or QNMU Policy Committee. It's the committee that is formed out of QNMU Council, and it's responsible for researching, drafting and reviewing policies for approval by conference and council. So you can have a look at all of the reports that the QPC produce. They do a great job. It's a committee of members that review, and as it says, researches and drafts policies. So that tab you don't necessarily have to have a look at, but if you want to have a look at policies, please do. Now we're getting into submitting a motion. So you just click on that tab. Before you can do anything, you have to actually answer these 4 questions to be able to go to the next screen. So and it's very self-explanatory, and we put it in, hopefully I'll get your feedback at the end of this, but hopefully we're putting it in a process where simply to understand. So the first question is, this motion has been endorsed by our branch at a meeting with a quorum. So again, that official branch meeting, you've minuted it, there was a quorum there, so it wasn't just one person thinking of their own ideas that they wanted raised at conference. There actually has to be an official branch meeting with quorum. The motion has not been debated and passed at QNMU Annual Conference within the last 5 years, so that's your research that you've done through those tabs. This motion does not duplicate or closely resemble a motion already submitted for 2023. So that's why that first tab that we saw, there's only one there at the moment, but have a look at that, because if another branch has already raised what you want, no need for you to duplicate. And the last one is that this motion is not regarding a local issue or compliance problem. So remembering that when you want to raise a motion, it's for issues that are affecting nurses and midwives across the board, as Kelly said. Local issues get addressed through a different mechanism. Press next. Once you've ticked those, you're allowed to press next. And we're into the drafting of the motion. First up, there's the example of your categories you select. Hopefully you've identified which category you're in. And you've got a drop-down box where you can click, let's do social. We click next. Now, this is where we even help you with your wording and your active language, as we're calling it. I would like word supports. So that the QNMU supports, who is the motion directed towards? What's the click down box there? Can you scroll down on that one? Is that all that we get? Let's do ANMF. What is the desired outcome? I want supports ANMF to recognise. Next. And this is where we get to add all of the details that the QNMU supports ANMF, that the QNMU supports ANMF in recognising, and you can change the words there, see how Ebony was able to change, recognising the the importance of taking action in the UK to ensure nurses and midwives are paid according and given an appropriate pay increase. Because we've got nurses and midwives in the UK taking action for the first time ever. We've got them taking action in the US as well. We've got your colleagues here in New South Wales trying to get a decent pay rise as well. So this is really just a motion to say that as a QNMU, 70,000 strong, we want to provide our support to the nurses in the UK to say, continue doing what you're doing. Press next. And this is where we add our background, a bit like what I just said. We want QNMU, we want the nurses in the UK to know that QNMU is standing behind them in their fight for a decent pay increase after a hard slog during COVID years. That makes sense, doesn't it? So you just put in whatever, you've got 200 characters, I think 200 words or something to use in that. Now, you get to read your motion over again. So confirm and submit your motion. It's in social, that the QNMU supports ANMF in recognising the importance of taking action in the UK to ensure the nurses and midwives are paid accordingly. And the background is blah. And we press finish. Now, I'm pretty sure you can't press finish. This is the only thing that I think we might need to make it a bit clearer at the front page. In your branch structure, you have a chair and you have delegates, and only the chair can press that finish button. So whoever, once that motion has been written, the chair of the meeting needs to be able to go into their computer and answer all of those questions and press finish. I hope that makes sense, because what that does is ensures that the proper process has been followed and that a branch meeting has taken place and that it has been minuted, and only the chair can actually submit the motions. Otherwise, we'll get motions from every single individual member of a branch. All right, does that make sense?
Yep.
Yeah. I do want to also acknowledge that we've got Vicky, I think, that's joined us a little bit later. Thanks, Sue-Ann, for your thumbs up. So hi, Vicky, I hope this is making sense for you. I encourage, in the courses that I've been doing up until now, encourage everybody to take an opportunity to go in there and have a play. And in fact, when we've done this in the building blocks of QNMU, this particular section, we have a practice of writing it the old-fashioned way first, just using the information in the first lot of slides, and it's actually quite hard. So that motion, that tool that they've built on the website to assist branches in writing a motion, I think helps, gives you the points, right? What we might do is, we've been, well, online for close to an hour. How does everybody feel in just having a 5-minute stretch of the legs, get yourself a glass of you want 10 minutes, Melita? Yeah. 5 or 10. How about we come back at about 5:30? Because what we might do, we'll come into the second half of the presentation, and a lot of it is me talking again, unfortunately, but you'll have access to the slides afterwards. But it just takes you through the motion of what happens once that motion has been submitted by the branch and we're now at conference. What happens? All right. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Kelly, how accurate do you have to be in selecting? You don't have to be that accurate. I'll say this again when people come back. You don't have to be that accurate. We've got a committee that's based here in the office. Once that cutoff point is done, we reread them as well. And in fact, when they're actually being submitted, what helps is that if they're submitted early, the committee can have a look at them early and we can send it back to the branch for fine tuning, for want of a better term. Yeah. So if you're not too sure which category, yeah, don't be too worried. But I think the definitions are quite clear. Have a look at the examples. All right, let's come back at 5:30. Stretch your legs and get yourself a drink. I was going to say a Chardonnay, but I'm at work, so let's say coffee or water, and I'll see you at 5:30. Turn off your camera if you like and mute, and then we'll be back. Amazing how time flies, isn't it? And Melita, am I going to get to see you at the Sunshine Coast in March? Yeah, great. Oh, I've got a screen up at the moment that's going to help me. I know. I feel now you're seeing me, now you don't. All right, we can. My old boss Lauren will have a laugh at this. She used to sing the song from Sound of Music. You know. What's the song, Lauren? Behind a Broomstick. Anyway. Yeah.
Oh my God, I can't remember.
You know the one I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah. It's high on the hill. It's lonely girl.
Yeah. That's the one. She does it very well too, but I cannot go anywhere close.
I love theaters.
Oh, there you go. We're
remember Leg yesterday during
that's right, Kelly.
Leg.
Yes, Shirley.
Yesterday, when we had the meeting with Kylie, she asked us what fun thing about yourself.
Yeah.
And then I said, I do cultural dancing.
Oh,
so
wow.
Everybody, welcome to cultural. Well, you're all welcome to come and join us for a multicultural event in the Gold Coast, and the Philippines will be performing cultural dances. So I will be there.
Oh, fantastic, Shirley. That's great. It's a great little thing to do and a great tidbit to know.
Thank you, Miss Leg. So I will keep you posted.
Yeah, please. I want to see photos. That's good.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. We'll do.
Well, look, welcome back. It's 5:31. I wanted to just, one thing while in the break, besides having a quick little drink of water, I have water, I had a quick look at my notes, and all going well, I think we can get this little session done in half an hour, because there is an element of this course that is really sort of rules orientated, and sometimes I can sit here and read the rules to you, but honestly, it's going to come out in the slides to you, and I think you can then read them at your own pace. We put them in a slide format so you can understand. But look, I've jumped forward a few of my presentation slides to be able to show you this slide, because Kelly asked a really good question. Some of you had left the room to get your drink by the time I answered it. So Kelly asked that how accurate do you have to be in selecting the categories? And my answer to that is that, look, don't worry too much. I think the examples that are given on that motion tool are really helpful to help you identify them. Probably read the examples more so than the headings, because I think the examples go into a little bit more detail. But if the motions, I don't know, we've just put here a couple of slides that show the common reasons motions are referred back to a branch. So we will refer motions back to a branch if we have the first one here. You can see motions have been ratified within the 5 years. So really important to do that research, which now you know is on the website for you to do. And look, all members have access to that website, okay? So not just the chair of the branch, only the chair has to submit the motion, but everybody can do their own research and come to the branch meeting with their research. Similar motions have been submitted by numerous branches, so that's another reason why we would send the motions back. Motions have submitted contravene previously ratified motions. In some cases, they've even been submitted by the same branch. So you can't put another motion up that contradicts what's already been put in place, if that makes sense. Motions that have been addressed or will be addressed with upcoming bargaining or document version update change. So that's specific to Queensland Health. And we already know that particularly it's been raised in the log of claims or in a particular version of negotiations. The rest are really motions that do not align with QNMU statement of values. So we do have our statement of values, which I suppose I should add into this slide. It's really important to know that we have values that we stand by as QNMU, just like you have values that you stand by as nurses. And the motion cannot the motion that you submit must align with QNMU's statement of values. Motions that are poorly written and or worded and the intent is not known. And that's probably the most common reason why motions are sent back. Hence why we put this tool in place on the website. Hence why this course is actually being written to try and educate everybody about the importance of having a really strong, accurate, succinct motion. And that motions, the other reason that they get referred back to your branch is that they undermine QNMU or ANMF's position for example, the safety allowance in lieu of applying for Gale's law. So we can't sort of substitute one fantastic win, Gale's law, meaning that nurses in remote areas must travel out in pairs or more and not just travel alone out and, to visit patients. You can't change that motion by submitting a dollar value to say, oh, look, instead of having that second person, how about we give you an allowance to go out by yourself? That would undermine the motion that's already in place and particularly would put that nurse back at risk. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Yep, excellent. I'll go back a few slides to show you what I mean about it's very rules orientated, this process. So I really don't want to be, you know, directing and talking at you. So the information that you'll get when we send this link out, it'll actually be a link, so you can actually click through and have a look at these yourselves. But this is the first slide that I will step you through. So once we're at conference now, you've submitted your motion, it's been accepted into the website, for want of a better term. I'll take you through what happens prior to conference, but once you get to conference, these are the steps that takes for dealing with an item with no amendment. So if your motion has been accepted without change, the mover of the item rises and announces the item. So the chairperson then calls for a seconder. So that's Sally Ann. And usually the seconder is somebody else within the branch. The seconder of the item rises and the mover of the item speaks in favour of it. The seconder, step 5, can speak in favour of it or may reserve the right to speak later in reply. And 9 times out of 10, the conferences that I've been to, the seconder chooses to reserve their right to speak later. So speakers from the floor, no more than 2 speakers in succession, either for or against the item. So as the mover and seconder have already spoken in steps 4 and 3, then as the mover and seconder have already spoken for the item, the first speaker from the floor should always be against the item. And there can be no more than 2 people, and this is what the chairperson of conference, Sally Ann, in most cases, will direct the floor. And the more times you get to witness this, the more times you'll get to understand it and see it. And so this is step 6 and 7. And 8 are in relation to the debate. So you have the right to submit and speak to your motion. If there's branches that are talking against it, they get to speak their side. The mover of the motion then has a right of reply and deals with any points made, just to clarify. And then the chairperson announces that the vote will be taken. She'll read out the wording of the motion again. The chairperson takes a vote on the motion. So voting at annual conference is by a show of hands unless otherwise required. But I think Ebony, if she's still online, it's all done electronically now, and you've got an app, I'm pretty sure, that you click to say that you are in favour or not in favour. Is that right, Ebony? No, she's still having her coffee. I'm pretty sure it's done electronically now. But the old-fashioned... Yeah.
Sorry, Leg. Yes, it's done like that last year. There was a box that the representative of a group will press, like from GCUH, we press the box to say agree or something like that.
Thanks, Shirley. Excellent.
Welcome.
Yes, I'm pretty sure. And this year, being an online conference, you're going to get instructions on how to vote in favour or against the motion. and Ebony and our team will send out those rules well prior so you can have a practice. The chairperson announces the result, and I know last year you could see it up on the screen in favour and against. And the minute taker, that's usually sitting up next to Sally Ann, will record the exact wording of the motion again and record it in the minutes for conference. And it's signed, sealed and delivered. Okay? Again, like I said, this information is very rules orientated, so I'm not going to go through the next slides. You can have a look at it yourself in your own time because there's about 19 steps. So this is the procedure I just went through for an item with no amendment, but sometimes from the floor, the wording of the motion can change, and there's about 19 steps. So you've actually got to go through all of that just to change the motion, and then you get to vote on the revised motion, if that makes sense. So I'm not going to go through the 19 for you. You can have a read of them in your own time, but just to know that the motions can be changed from the floor, all right? But the really important information that you need to know about as a branch, I've already spoken to you about the common reasons, is there's the rules. We've actually written them out for you. There's QNMU rules, and in particular Administrative Regulation 10, which is the notices of motions for annual conference, clearly articulates the process that must follow for submitting a motion. So we're governed by that, and we've added them in there so that you can actually refer to them if you need to. This is the motions building tool that I went through live with you and Ebony showed you on the website. But just in case, if you're wanting to have a look at these slides with your branch, we've got the login stage, log into the website, go to our branches, click for motions and resolutions, carefully read through each tab, particularly the current motions and past motions. Once you know, branch chairs only will see the last tab. Okay, oh, there you go. So only branch chairs got to see the last tab or submit a motion. And I've lost my mouse. So that's the motion building tool. So everybody, unless you're the chair, you'll only see information, current motions, past resolutions, not carried, withdrawn and QPC. This is the information I wanted to provide for you. So like I said to you at the beginning of the presentation, the motions are now open. So please take the time in each of your branch meetings to have a look at whether you want to lodge a motion. It's open now. The cutoff date for this one is the 19th of April. And what you will do is get a version of all of the motions that have been submitted for 2023 will be published on the 31st of May. I'm thinking it's going to be on our website and you might get a link, branches will get a link to all of the motions. Are you online, Ebony? No, she hasn't come back. To be able to know. So what that means is come the 31st of May, all of the motions you will have access to be able to discuss and debate at your branches. So instead of having that branch discussion on the floor of conference, you've got a full month of June and half of July to spend time with your colleagues in your branches to discuss the motions that have been submitted by other branches. But remember, you can even see them all already on that website, and we can be starting to have a note. What's the position of our branch at Ipswich Hospital in relation to the motion submitted by Sunshine Coast? Are we in favour of that or aren't we? And I might go back to the website if Ebony's online and I'll be able to talk to that motion because I think it's a fantastic motion that's already written. If she's not online, I'll be able to do it, hopefully, if I'm good at my IT. And for this year, mark the date in your calendar, 2023, and actually you should put all these dates in your calendar. So motions should be submitted by the 19th. You'll get to see them all and they will be published on the 31st of May. And then attendance to our online virtual conference will be on the dates of the 12th to the 14th of July. And that takes us to the end of our presentation. So let me see if I can actually take you, can I get there, do you think, to the website? Do I just go straight to Safari? I just want to go back to the motion that was written by our Sunshine Coast branch. I'm just getting my other educator, Olivia, to help me.
Sorry, I can pull it up for you, Leg, if you want.
Oh, thank you, Dal.
Give me 1 sec.
And can you also tell me while you're talking, all of the motions will be published on the 31st of May. How are they published, Ebony? Do all branches get an email with a link, or will they just be shown on the website? What special stuff do they get?
So it's a mixture. So we send everyone an email, which links directly to the website, which will have a downloadable PDF that everyone can kind of print if they want to.
Okay, great. Excellent. But in the meantime, you can see all of the motions that have already been submitted and start having a discussion about your position at your branch on whether you whether you support or are against the motions that have been submitted. Shirley, you've got your hand up. Thank you for asking a question, Dal.
Thank you, Leg. The July 12 to 14, will that be a whole day, 3-day conference?
Yes, it will be.
So that means from now, as early as now, I can already request for like industrial leave for those 3 days so that I know I will be available to attend the virtual.
Yeah. Okay, right. And what we're learned and what some branches are already planning and discussing is maybe looking at having a little room within the hospital or renting out the education room. Some people are going to a library. Some smaller branches in remote areas are meeting at somebody's house. So have a set, rather than sitting individually with all of everybody in your branch separated, they're sort of going to pretend it's like a mini conference within their own environment. We'll provide you with all of the information you need as a branch to be able to have those 3 days. We'll make it as entertaining as possible. I know we've got some great speakers lined up already, and the platforms are going to be really easy to use. There'll be lots of breaks. But Ebony's got the branch notices of motion up there for me now, as you can see it. Can everybody see it on the screen? Yeah. So this is what's been submitted so far, and I do like how the motion's actually very short and succinct, and it says that the QNMU seeks ANMF work with the federal government to have nurse practitioners, gerontology, you can tell I'm not in the health industry, appointed to each aged care facility in Australia. So that's a really broad motion, but the background really helps me understand what it means, particularly a layperson like myself. So Australian hospitals are overwhelmed with presentations to emergency departments. That's no secret. Aged care facilities are frequently send their residents to hospital as well, as they do not have the capacity to care for their clients on the site. So the national general practitioner shortage will significantly worsen the situation. So if each aged care facility had an appointed nurse practitioner in gerontology, that position could ensure that residents could receive appropriate health treatment within their residential facility. And this not only is best for the residents, it would relieve the burden on a hospital system. I think that, if I was branch of Leg Brown, I would be saying yes to that motion myself, but your branches need to have a discussion about that and say, well, what's the impact on the industry? Do we agree with that position? Could the motion be improved upon? Should we be a bit more specific? I think the only thing that I could say, if we could reword that motion, is put a time frame on it, so that the QNMU seeks ANMF work with the federal government to have nurse practitioners appointed to each aged care facility in Australia by the end of 2024. That gives it a little bit more tighter time frame, but other than that, I think it's a well-written motion.